Hola, it's X. You already know how I do, and in this video I'm picking back up on the League of Legends character fashion series, starting with the ever so stylish Ahri. I'm going to quickly go over the top 5 things you need to know about her context as well as her style in general, and then we'll move into looking at the incredible collection of skins that she has. Getting into these top 5 contextual points around Ahri's lore or story, she is of Vestayan heritage, and the Vestaya are a chimeric race that is essentially a hybrid between humans and these shape-shifting beings, and that's how she got her magical powers. Sadly, she was orphaned as a child, abandoned in the mountains of Ionia or Ionia, and the only connection that she has to her past are these pair of gemstones that were left behind with her. As far as her magical powers are concerned, she has the ability to absorb people's memories and life force, and that has gotten her into some trouble because she once accidentally drained the life of an entire village. And building on that point a little bit, she also has a tragic love story. She fell in love with a man, but she gets caught up in that essence, and she was all swept up in feeding off of his life force and accidentally killed him. And so now she's on a quest for identity, traveling all throughout Runeterra, trying to see if she can find any additional information about her heritage and her ancestors and the Vistani tribe, but also learn more about her magical powers and obviously how to control them. So that's a TLDR on her lore. Getting into Ahri's style in general, we're looking at an elegant, sophisticated, and Asian culturally inspired aesthetic, which is honestly a direct reflection of the Ionian or Ionian look and feel more broadly, which we can consistently see across pretty much the majority of the characters and their outfits. And taking into account that Ahri is a mage class character, there's naturally some mystical and luring elements added to her various styles, and she has all the range, which I believe makes for a true fashionista. So out of all the girlies within the League of Legends realm or universe, she's definitely one of the top best dressed. All right, now let's shift gears and actually get into looking at these various skins that Ahri has in her collection, loosely ranked from least favorite to most favorite, obviously based on my personal taste. Starting with Foxfire Ahri, this one also is very in your face with some strong, bold red hues and colors. I love the subtle use of patterns, and it feels a little bit more battle ready, especially compared to or in concert of her full collection. But with that, it just doesn't feel like it has as much of the kind of decoration that I like to see. It's really solid and simple as it is, like even with just a nice accessorized belt around the waist, just to fill in some of that void. But outside of that, it's not really like blowing me away, especially as we move to progressive looks. Then we have Academy Ahri, and when you look at the artwork for this, she just feels like one of those like effortlessly cool girls within the school. And I just love that overall preppy energy that she has with this aesthetic. It's not obviously anything that we haven't seen before. We know what this schoolgirl situation is, the framework, the structure, the inputs, the elements. I just think it's very fitting for her personal style, and I love the little heart motifs sprinkled throughout, but I mean, we've definitely see much more interesting and experimental designs as we go. Now the Spirit Blossom Ahri skin, I do feel like it's a nice punch and break out of her typical color scheme. I feel like she's very committed to some whites, some blacks, some reds. And I feel like this one gives us a lot more vibrance and freshness. Does genuinely feel very spiritual and like in tune with a little bit more of that essence that is true to her abilities, and kind of gives me a little bit of Karma's vibe, because Karma also has a little bit of that kind of bluish teal color mixed within some of her core palette. It's just a nice change, feels very mystical. It's not anything we haven't seen before. We know that like the kimono, the belts, the bows, we've seen this, but it's still very refreshing. The Dynasty Ahri is also, you see with the Asian cultural inspired, like she's very committed to that aesthetic. But what I like about this one is that it does feel very true to the traditional looks that we have seen throughout many historical pieces. But I feel like this one almost looks a little bit more modern. Like I feel like this could be a very current outfit that a woman could throw on and easily rock. It just feels very well coordinated. Not too over the top with the detailing patterns and accessorizing, but just enough in just the right spots. The Elderwood Ahri is a much more organic and natural aesthetic compared to all of the more luxurious and high fashion and high society looks that Ahri typically adopts and adorns. So I really appreciate that flex and range, but also just so body confident. Like out of any of the female characters within the League of Legends universe, you know that she's got to be rocking with some of that. And the flower motifs are very nice, and I feel like also pretty true to a little bit of her abilities, her heritage, her lineage, and just her overall concept. But really love this Shanghai Scrolls skin. It feels like such a simple framework, and it honestly really is for the outfit, but it's those artistic brushstroke designs and patterns across her entire aesthetic, from the clothes to her tails, that just add so much innate movement to the look. Like, she doesn't need a whole bunch of excessively flowing accessories or fabrics, just the strokes and the way that all of the different patterns are swept throughout and spiraled. It just feels like she's constantly in motion and cascading and flowing just so gracefully and organically. But then we get into Ahri's default outfit, and honestly, I had this ranked lower initially, but after reevaluating some of those early ones, this is really strong for a default look. True to the region, but also really just sets her up with a solid, memorable, iconic structure and framework. At first I was like, we've seen this before, but I just feel like with the corset or the belt, all the different tassels, like when you really just start to unpack it, the boots, there's really great design and structure going on here. And I feel like everything really plays well together. And I didn't even really notice all of the purple sprinkled in here initially. I feel like this Immortalized Legend skin is easily building upon that core aesthetic that she has. Love how the silhouette is even more expanded just for a little extra presence and dominance, which I feel like based on the tone of this skin, that's absolutely what she needs to be exercising. I thought that she had more black in her core skin initially, not the purple. So just seeing it here in such great prominence really does give her that alluring, edgier twist to her aesthetic that I feel like is obviously a realm that she can easily occupy, just knowing what she is capable of doing with her abilities and powers. As far as the challenger skin, I thought about maybe having this one ranked a little bit lower, just given the overall simplicity of the look, but that's actually, I think, playing a little bit to its strength. It is quite differentiated out of the rest of the skins in the collection. It just feels, it's a pants situation, which she hasn't had too much of really up until this point at all. And the silhouette is also once again a little expanded and just complements her waist and figure very nicely. Overall, a different kind of vibe that she's giving off. She feels similar to the Foxfire, a little in it to win it. She feels battle ready. Now the Snow Moon collection in general is very strong. It's just so well detailed and it fits Ahri's overall concept so perfectly. I love it's still a very like Asian culturally inspired look at core if you really break it down, but just the different orientation of it and stylizing of it puts it into kind of a whole new category and does feel like a whole new refreshed, flexed aesthetic that's more progressive. Loving the routed elements that are a good contrast to a lot of the sharpness that we see in the cuts of the clothing. And we also see that softness further contrasting to that in like the fur in her boots as well. Love the Arcana skin. Just love when there's a lot of black in her style. And white is pretty consistent, but just once again, it's the headpiece here. It's the overall body cover up. It's the pants. And there's just plenty of gold detail. Like this is a really classic color scheme that we see with a lot of like chic, high class characters throughout a number of different franchises. Love there's like always like a big kind of tassely detail or something that's hanging in some area of her outfit. That's been a pretty consistent element and almost feels a little like Y2K just because it's like a dress over some pants situation. I always gotta rank the arcade skins pretty high or like mid to high because it's just a nice, fun, youthful, sporty, different aesthetic for a number of the characters, especially given that Ahri is someone who's, like I said, a bit more elegant, sophisticated, and luxury. Love the use of body confidence here. This is a typical framework that I've mentioned. I love a little bit of a crop, some short shorts, and like a tall stocking or boot situation. Plenty of those gamer motifs sprinkled in, something that's technological, something that has plenty of gadgets. And I love a little bit of that kind of like pixel detail on the shirt as well. Just so well accessorized, simple, also very practical, a little campy. It's just a nice mix of everything. You know that being one of the top League of Legends girlies, that Ahri has to be part of the Star Guardian squad, obviously. I mean, as far as the overall look, there's really not much to say. It's a uniform. They all look pretty similar in many different ways, but I think out of all the Star Guardians, she's definitely pulling off this look amongst the strongest, even stronger than Seraphine, I have to say. Like Ahri was absolutely made for this aesthetic. It's clean, it's polished, and she's just such like a leader within a number of these different kind of stories or events. And I really feel like she's giving that energy effortlessly in this skin. Now let's talk some KDA, because she is such a pop queen. And I love the simplicity of this look once again. This almost reminds me of the framework that I love that Eula had in the Genshin video that I just did, where it's just like a nice, like high-waisted, very short kind of like bottom situation, but then the stockings or the boots go up really high, giving us a nice thigh slit. She just looks so good. And it's obviously practical. Like, oh my goodness. Like, and it's just not having to do too much. I think that that's the really big deal here. But I actually love just like the general pop star Ahri skin even more than that, because it's also just so simple, but we're getting a nice jacket situation into the mix, which just gives us more layering and more dimension and a slightly different silhouette than if she didn't have the jacket at all. And the belt is so statement accessorizing and elemental input here that just really makes this effortlessly strong, paired with the hat for just some super cute coordination. And what I love is that these are short shorts, they're not tall boots, but there's still some sort of stocking to fill in some of that void, to not make it feel so blank and empty. I actually had the Prestige KDA skin ranked much lower than this, but it's really just the gold detailing and the sleek, chic simplicity that is really doing so much work here. It's just so easy breezy, effortless. Imagine if the gold belt wasn't in the mix. It would still look very alluring, still look very high class and luxurious, but it fills in that void. It just gives so much grounding to the outfit, allowing the bands within the legs and the arms just to have a little bit more cohesion and connection and synergy throughout the whole outfit. But let's talk about this Midnight Ahri skin. When I saw this, I was like, I don't know what about this is knocking me out. Once again, we have that central tassel detail. We've talked about this and just as a pretty consistent element throughout these looks. I just really love how the fur almost feels like it's cascading down throughout the jacket or the dress, and how we see that same kind of curved like shape and form echoed in the boots. Like it just, and it's overall a pretty flat color palette, to be honest. But it's that fur detailing that really gives it a lot more life. At first, when I saw the Soda Pop Ahri skin come out on Wild Rift, I was like, this just feels like a gimmick. But honestly, it's really a fun look. And especially after diving into solar punk fashion and more kind of futuristic aesthetics that are bright and like almost Frutiger Arrow-esque, this feels like it's completely in line with that. Just that orange burst of color and flavor and energy and zest that we're getting from this overall look. Love the soda tab can motif. It feels just so campy, but still like somehow like so like actual fashion that we could maybe see and evolve into in the future. Definitely a skin that is ahead of its time. Now, when it comes to a Coven aesthetic, I think I will always be into it, especially as far as female characters are concerned, because it can either amplify a look and feel and vibe that they already have that's true to their character, or pull them into a whole entire realm that just gives them so much more flex, range, and magnitude. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening with Ahri. We've seen that she has a lot more of that softer, elegant, graceful looks to her collection, and this just gives her that bite, that edge, and that mystery. I love the shape. Once again, we're still within her overall structure and silhouette, but there's just some nice textural details. Okay, this is the Immortalized Legend. The other one was the Risen Legend. This Immortalized Legend skin is out of control, like probably literally and figuratively. She looks like some sort of wild fox spirit, deity, goddess, fantasy. Like it just is so much more evolved than the Risen skin. There's so much more drama and movement and shape to the sleeves. Like there's actual like sleeves. Like it's just almost such a speechless look. Like, you know, she is not to be played with and messed with in this overall aesthetic. But you know, similar to Crystal Rose across these characters, I gotta give it to the KDA all out, because this design goes all out. I still think Seraphine's is better. I'm biased towards her in that regard, but this look is outrageously strong. The crystal shoulders, that's even kind of brought into the bodice of the dress and the chest area with a little bit of sheer detail, just like the geometric shape and texture to the overall design. It's prismatic, it's holographic. The little chain charm, like I could go on and on, but it's just so well decorated. Top pop girly, leader potential. Her and Seraphine absolutely shut this overall look down. I thoroughly enjoyed covering the Fierce Fashionista Ahri in this video. Let me know what your favorite skin is and which ones take your top spot. But until the next video, I'll talk to you later.